Hi, it's Christy of So to Speak, and welcome back to the Closet series. We are based in upstate New York here at So to Speak, and we are given the gift, if you call it that, of having our spring months really smash all seasons within 2 months. Mother Nature provides us with glimpses of spring. The colors start popping out of the ground and on the trees. And then the next day, we may have a snowstorm, or we may have a blustery fall-like day, or even the sun might burst through, reminding us that summer is right around the corner. And just like Mother Nature, this past year has reminded us that there's certain things we can't control, and weather being one of them, which has always been one of them, but there's so much more. And when we are faced with situations, whether it's on a large scale or a small scale, we have a choice to be able to pause and take in what we deem ordinary and look at it from a different lens. So, fortunately for us, our next guest has found the wonder in the ordinary, and he's also found time to come into the closet and share with us just exactly how we can all do the same thing. Bernie Freytag is a self-proclaimed rambler and doodler. He is an incredible author of this book right here, Find Wonder in the Ordinary, and illustrator. And he is also the creative director of Romanelli Communications, based right here in upstate New York. And Bernie and I discuss everything from what gave him the inspiration to write this fantastic book, as well as we went off the hook a little bit. We started talking about death. We started talking about life. We started talking about creativity. And it all got rolled into this seamless, beautiful way that all came back to the core of Bernie's book, which is how can we all find ways to slow down enough to appreciate that within the ordinary is actually the extraordinary. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy our conversation. I want to kick us off first because I don't know the woman who created these, but there's this card deck that I got from, if you're familiar with my good friend Angela Johnson, who was she owned BB Designs. She's a local
Yes,
artist.
yes, 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 yes.
So she
We are.
gifted me these, and she gifted me these very innocently, these cards, and not knowing what was inside, the magic that was inside these cards.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a really fun take on spirituality. It takes it very
I'm all
light,
for it.
very
Yeah.
badass. And so what I do is I just do a random card pull um before each guest in the series. I'll
Okay.
be like, okay, Bert, I'll just think of you and I'll pull a card and I'll say, okay, let's just see how this can connect. And 10 times, it's like on the money.
Okay.
And I want to, like, this is the first card I pulled for you. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
I was laughing out loud because I was like, of course. So it says, be yourself, even if you're crazy. Stop worrying about normal ass, nothing ass people judging your cool, weird ass.
Yeah, that's pretty right on.
We're going to kick it off with a bang. So
Yeah.
give me thoughts on that card. Give me thoughts. What's coming up?
I couldn't agree with it more. I mean, it's just be yourself, be who you are, and everything will come to you at that point, and uh I've always been a little bit different than most people, and I don't know that I've completely embraced that until I went through the process of writing that book. And it was a spiritual journey in a lot of ways, and it allowed me to put everything out there and kind of own myself. Um, and I get into I've gotten extremely spiritual since I wrote the book or during writing the book, and just learned to be in love with my own breath. There's something so powerful about each individual person and who they are at the core. So it's like, I can't believe you pulled that card. So yeah, and it's exactly it's the purpose behind each one of us. It's like we're all individuals, and we've talked very briefly through email about stories. Like everyone has their own story, and I think that's why you started this series, right?
I love that you brought that up. The series has gone through so many transformations, and it's about a year old at this point. It was somewhat of a why not? Let's put it out there. Right when COVID hit, it started out of, okay, so I want to be able to help support the businesses in our community. And what can I do? And I was like, I'll just have conversation. I know so many small business owners who I love and I'm friends with. I'll just have them on, and then we'll have a great conversation. People will get maybe insights or humor or entertainment. And then they'll also be informed of the business. They'll know the person behind the business. So it started there, and then it morphed, right? Like it started growing, and it was in my linen closet because, like so many people during COVID, were finding little nooks who were working from home and parenting and schooling. So my linen closet is big enough for me to come in here and have this space. And then it shifted to, there's a reason I'm in this closet having these conversations. So then it really very organically, the through line, because there's so many different types of guests, is story, like you and I talked about, but it's also talking about topics that people keep in the closet, right? Like that we're almost kind of embarrassed to admit, from everything from sexuality to addiction to just emotional, mental, physical, like the whole nine. And we've just had great guests that have come through. So
that's
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love the whole idea with the stuff we keep in the closet. A couple secrets in the book that are further along towards the end. And it's stuff like what I put in the book, which I'll tell you what it is, that allows us to be more open in ourselves. And I just read in a book yesterday something about, like, once it's out there, it's not as big of a deal as you thought it was, right? And it, like, when I read that, I must have read it like 6 times. I'm like, I want to try to remember those words, and I might have to go back and like look at them again. But it just reminded me that I held on to so many secrets over the years that I just didn't. I thought that was such a big deal, and then it became like, once it's out there, well, that's not as big a deal as I thought it was going to be, right? And just so you know, like, what it is that, I mean, that I was in a bike accident, and that's the whole start of the book. That I went through a head trauma injury, and I went through like 10 months of speech therapy. It's funny, I stutter on speech therapy, right? And about a year later, I was also diagnosed with leukemia. So that was like a double hit. And it's like, that's kind of envelopes the book. And being able to get all of that on paper and get it out of myself and put it into something that I hope people enjoy, but also get something out of, it was freeing, so that's why I love the idea of the stuff in the closet. And I have to also say that you have like one of the best backgrounds of anybody on like social media. Like, it's like the symmetry of it and the lines coming in, like, it's awesome. Like, I don't know how much time you spent on it, but it's like, I honestly, I got kind of like, somebody said something about my background on a Zoom call like a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I got to do something about this. So this is what I set up. So I have
love
like this.
it.
Yeah.
Treehouse vibe going on.
Yeah, there is. I'm
into
actually about probably 4 feet off the ground in a little nook.
Yeah,
So
I'm
yeah.
into it. And it's very what I would expect of you, because people don't realize, maybe they don't, or maybe they didn't think about it. You and I have met in passing, but we haven't really met. We've gotten to know each other through email, and from me reading your book and you reading my
Correct.
emails. And so from knowing what I've known here, your setup is not surprising to me at all. seeing the music behind, seeing the tree on the side of you, the lights, like being up higher in a little nook, like
Yeah.
it's what I would imagine. So it's really cool. And I love, you said so much just now, and I just love the idea that your spirituality came from writing, like strengthened, it was enhanced, was uncovered, whatever you call it, right? Like from writing the book.
Yes.
And I was going to ask you this question. So I love how it's just connected already. And it's a question I didn't email to you. I have talked to so many artists, and I would love everybody's perspective that is an artist and people who maybe know artists. But what is your thought on the idea that an art is there an artist who has the potential to be an atheist, right? So I'm thinking more so like when you're creating something, I'm very, my philosophy on it is I'm a conduit, like I just channel whatever it is when I'm writing. It's not me, because then there's so much ego within that, like, and so I'm so curious to think of an artist who is an atheist, who doesn't believe that there's anything else that's contributing to what they're outputting. I would just love your thoughts on that.
So you're asking if I believe that there are
Yeah. Like, have
artists
you
out
met
there
any?
that
Is it possible?
I I I I think my answer is that I hope it's not possible, because I wouldn't understand that person. It wouldn't make sense to me, and um, it's kind of like it's like, when you move the dog's water bowl and they're like, it's always here. It's always like right here, and that's how I feel when you say something like that. Like it just doesn't compute. So
Mhm.
no, I don't think they're I don't think so.
I love that. I'm never going to look at my dog Walter's water bowl again the same way, and I'm not going to move it either.
Don't ever move
Oh
it.
my gosh,
And
that's
the
so
thing,
great.
I feel so cruel because I move my dog's stuff all the time because I'm redoing a house and stuff. So I have to move things around all the time. Every time I move it, I'm like, I'm sorry, but the water's gonna be over here now. Try to have a little conversation with her. I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's, yeah.
Well, you never, it could be like a dog's own way of mental stimulation. So you might be helping her out and strengthening her brain, you know?
Thank you.
Think of it like
Thank
that.
you. That's the power of positivity right there.
Power of positivity, always looking at the opportunity. And
Always.
speaking of opportunities, one area, it's right the way beginning of your book. I love how you kicked it off by having you be like a fictional character named Harry,
Yeah.
right, to intro
Yeah.
us into it. At the end of you sharing what you went through with your bike accident, one thing really stood out to me is that you shared that it helps you to look at it more objectively, like a movie. And I just would love for you to speak to that on how that helps in regards to anybody who may be going through something traumatic or processing the aftermath of where they are right now with COVID, and how has that helped you to be able to look at your life from that perspective and that one, trauma and that perspective from more of an objective standpoint?
Um, it's a good question. I think it helped me at the time and it helped me in the journey. Like, I don't think I view it that way now. I think it was part of the whole process of therapy for me, is to kind of step outside of it and look at it from the outside. Um, and it must, distancing myself must have comforted me somehow, and be able to take it from a different angle, because I went through some dark times. So I was in the middle of something that I didn't see a lot of light, and so maybe stepping outside of that allowed more light to shine on it. Maybe that makes sense. And I'm just making this up right now, so I don't really know. It's a theory. Um, but I know that writing that part of the book, it helped me to write it that way, um, and then transition into the fact that it was me and what I went through. And I maybe there was a bit of entertainment in there for it too. I mean, there's no doubt that it needed to have a little something, which is why I called it a kid's book for adults, because I wanted it to be a little bit more playful than just a story about a bike accident, you know. So yeah, I guess that's my answer.
It's beautiful. I love, and off the cuff answers are so real. So I love that you haven't necessarily given too much thought to it. It's just having that perspective of pulling back and seeing it from a broader scope is so it's just such an interesting concept to me. So I just wonder why, when people do it, how it benefits them and what's the reason that they did it.
Yeah, I love this. I love the question. I don't think I've ever even thought of it that way. And usually in any sort of interview setting like this, I don't write notes or anything. And I'd rather do this kind of just conversation and see what comes out of it, because I think more truth comes out of it that way, I think. I don't know. Don't think about it so much.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I feel like, you know, us talking about the importance of story and you sharing, so like there are a few different parts to that, right? So us talking in general about the connection of story and our shared human condition transcends every language. You could, I mean, I always say you could press mute on a movie that is in Japanese and you'd still be able to relate to the characters if the acting is really good and if the
Right.
directing is really good. You should have some sort of visceral empathy or connection to them just from seeing their expression. And so when you're talking about story, it, I just love that it connects us all on that level and humanizes everybody. And so for you to be able to break it down with something so severe that you went through and to pull back to look at it from a scope of putting you as a fictional character and then doing the reveal, there's therapy in there for you, there's relatability in there for other people. From what you said, you may, without having consciously been aware of it, been able to write from a pure place because you were writing not so in it subjectively. And I just thank you for sharing. Thank you for not just sharing that, but writing so honestly and real this book, because it's there. It's so necessary right now. That's one thing that I've heard so many people talk about, is that COVID has done so many things for them in regards to just shedding all the crap we don't need anymore and paying attention to more of the ordinary and the vibrancy of life. And now we're in, you know, spring has just sprung here in upstate New York and the colors are getting so vibrant. And so I just wonder the connection of the ordinary, right? Of paying more attention. That seems very natural to you. But do you have any tips for people who may still be kind of in their head or swirling through? There might be a numbness kind of after the fact with everything going on with COVID, and how they can start paying a little bit more attention to the ordinary and find that childlike curiosity and playfulness in it.
Um, well, first, it is surprising to me that I'm still talking about my book, to be honest with you, at this time. I mean, it came out 2019. So almost, was it 2019 or was it 2018? I can't even remember now. But it's been a couple of years, and like honestly, I thought I'd be only talking about it for about 6 months and then it would go on. But something happened during COVID where people started to pick it up more, and listening to what it had to say, because we've been through a very dark time, and it's the same type of thing, and being able to get the best out of our situation during this. And I think you can put, a lot of people say that we were going through this time as some sort of lesson or whatever. And yeah, I think everything is a lesson. So but I do think one thing I've learned, everything is a reminder to slow it down and take a breath. So pay attention to your breath. I'll bring breath back probably 100 times, but it's so true. And it's one of the things that I do a lot. It was where I get stressed or something, I'll just stop everything and just take a 6-second inhale and a 6-second exhale and do that a couple times. And that alone will change your perspective on anything. Just dialing it out for even that brief period of time a little bit more, involved, go for a walk, go for a hike, go, take a drive, anything that brings you back to your center. And we all like to go on vacation, and that is like one of the ultimate things to really free your mind, right? But I think your question is more, what do we do when we can't go on vacation? How do we take a vacation in our minds? And that's the key part of it. I'm lucky. I live in a very secluded place now, where I can walk out my back door and hike for an hour, and that is priceless. But if you can't do that, drive someplace, walk around, go to a park, sit at a park bench, just take it in. Leave your cell phone at home, things like that, like you can do so simple and easy that we tend to forget it, right? I mean, we're so in it all the time, and especially with all technology and everything is just coming at you, and it's difficult to figure out to unplug. So those are the things I would do. There's probably a million other things I could probably list. But I always come back to the fact, and this has been kind of a recent thing, that we're always reminded to just slow it down, take a breath.
And I love the idea of the breath, because it's always there and it's free. I always say that, like, it's always there and it's free.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
24/7, if you're staring a hole in the ceiling at 3 a.m., your breath is there. If you're in rush hour traffic and you're in a jam, the breath is always there. Early in the morning when you're rushing through, the breath is always there. And there have been so many times I've heard that the breath is spirit. So there's this cool connection. Like when you talk about realigning, when you pause and give respect to your breath, that is in a way respecting the bigger powers that be, and saying, I see you, I'm with you. And I find there tends to be a sense of security with that and peace with that when I have a tendency to get very anxious. And so when I sense that happening, that I feel protected. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good explanation. There's a comfort there. And I read in a book about being in love with your own breath. And after I read that, it's just like, that's it. It's just like when you listen to it, fall in love with it, and that for me always brings me back to center. And it's obviously it's an easy thing to say. It's a difficult thing to do and to be reminded of, but the reminders are always there.
Yeah, it is, and it does always make me like, why is it so hard for us to realize that at the end of the day, everything comes back to being present? And then it's almost mocked in a way too. I mean, I rolled at, like, when someone says, take a breath. If I'm stressed, I'm kind of like, it's the last thing I want to, even if you,
right.
But it's kind of equivalent to someone telling you to calm down, which is a major trigger, right?
Yeah.
All it does is remind you that you are not calm and that it's evident that you're not calm. So it's just like,
right. So don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
But I just feel like it's such a, like, what can remind us to come back to what matters so that we don't have those regrets? And one that's intense, it's not an exercise for everybody, although I recommend it consistently to clients and in workshops, is to write your eulogy. Just write your eulogy. Write a letter to your kids, like it's the last letter, and be prepared to cry like an animal, but you're releasing. So there's that. And you're getting really honest and clear about what matters. And you might walk away from that hour writing a letter to your kids or your own eulogy being like, I'm not in line at all with anything I want to be doing. And it doesn't mean you have to do a huge overhaul at once, but it allows regrets not to be as strong once you do get to your deathbed, because we're all going to get to our deathbed at some point.
We are.
Did you forget about that?
Really?
And you know what else?
Another secret.
I mean, all out of the closet, everybody, there you go. One other that I would love to hear your thoughts on this as an exercise. I'm reading this book by a woman named Denise Lynn called Soul Coaching, and she breaks it up into elements. So there's a fire week, there's a water week, there's an air week, and there's an earth week. And one of her exercises during fire week is about death. And it's about how our soul lives on, and we're in these meat suits, and okay, so we're here, but how can we kind of do what you did with your accident, actually, like do that objectivity so we don't get so in it. And one of the exercises is to visualize like a million different ways for you to die and to have fun with it. And she takes the fear of morbidity and just makes it very playful, so that we don't get as scared of dying. And I mean, she puts everything you can imagine. She gives you examples of what you can do. And at first you're like, what the heck? And then you're kind of interested. I think you're either interested or appalled, but anybody who would be reading her book, I think, would be on the spectrum more towards interested. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to know how I want to die?
No, I'm just kind of
because that's where my mind is going right now. It's
well,
like, oh my God, there's so many.
I mean, if COVID hasn't made us all like our mortality straight in our face, you know, like we have to. And I have that rebellious artist spirit that's kind of like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to be the one who chooses how I die. Like own, you know, but to play around with it. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I don't know that I've ever really thought about it. My first reaction was, I just want to like have a parachute not open and just go, just like enjoy the hell out of myself, scream my head off, and just like, you know, that's my first thought.
Yeah.
And just like, boom, done. You know, I mean, yeah, and I've thought about my mortality for many years. When I was diagnosed with the leukemia, I mean, that put it right front and center, right after an experience where I wouldn't call it a near-death experience with the bike accident, but I mean, it's possible, I guess. But the leukemia thing really put it front and center. So, and I've worked very hard to learn not to fear death. But it's the ways to die is what you fear, right? So to have fun with that is a really interesting exercise, and I would love to write a list, like a top 10 list of way to die. I would totally get into that. And by the way, I don't mean to change the subject, but I liked your questions on your little thing about, you know, you pick your favorite movie and all that. I can't do it. I can't pick one. I have such a hard time. And right after that, I wrote down my top 10 list of books, movies, books and movies and
music,
albums. Yeah. Just bringing top 10 lists back into it.
I love that. So, and then ways to die will be added to it for you.
Yes, I'm going to have to do that. I'll do that next week, maybe this weekend, because I'll be thinking about it from this point until I have that top 10.
Goes back to the card, your cool, weird ass, Bernie. Come on. But it does, there is something that I heard too, like there's levity in spirit, there's levity in the breath, there's levity in death, right? Like, so if we could lighten our grip on it, right? I'm ignorant to this, but I think of the Spanish culture. They celebrate, right?
Yes.
Day of the Dead. They celebrate life.
Yes.
They're celebrating life. They're not, right? And so when people pass away and they have the day of celebration, I love that. I think it's such an exciting, it fills the room. Have you ever been to one of those? Like where
I've never been to one. I've seen Coco.
I saw Coco too. I haven't been to a Spanish one, but have you been to any in America, like in the United States, where someone passes away and then they have it honoring their life, and so everybody comes and shares stories about the person who passed away?
I'm half Irish, so the Irish side, I've had that experience. When that was my grandmother passed away, and she was 100% Irish, and you know, I'm also half Italian, and so, but all of the funerals I've been to over the years were Italian, So when my grandmother passed away, I didn't know how to take it in. Like I didn't understand like everyone, drinking beer and telling stories. Like it didn't compute for me, this is my grandmother, I didn't know any better. But since then, I I I love that whole mentality. It makes perfect sense to me. It should be about celebration of life. Um, and I don't know if you've ever seen, did you ever see there was a viral video, I think it was last year or the year before. It was an Irish man who passed away, and he had his daughter put in a recording of him in the casket or near the casket, and when they loaded it in, it was his voice saying, "Hey, I'm not dead yet," and like knocking on it. And he did it. He did it because he wanted uh, his family not to walk away cheerful, and to walk away and go to the pubs and raise their glasses and tell stories about him. And that's why he did it. And I'm like, I love that freaking story. I love this guy. His
That
name
is
was
so
Shay.
beautiful.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty cool.
it's so cool. And you know, it's, there's something that is so true about when someone passes away, if you've seen their body afterwards, they're not there.
Right.
They're not there, which just brings it back to what we were talking about, like the spirituality and the soulful breath part is our essence, right? And so that it's goes back to the way beginning when you were talking about like there is only one of each of us. So you are the creative director, right, at Romanelli,
Correct.
also an illustrator, and there are a million illustrators and creative directors, but there's not one that will bring what you bring. And
Right.
and same with anybody who's watching this. I just think it's such an important point to bring home, that it's our soulful essence. And so when anybody has this, it's making me just think of this, like when anybody who I hear oftentimes online and with clients being held back, like, does anyone need one more fill in the blank? And I always go back to like, can you imagine if your favorite artist was ever like, does anyone, like, if Meryl Streep was like, does anyone need another actress? No, I'm going to cash it. I'm not going to do it. Daniel Day-Lewis, Paul McCartney was like, no one needs another boy band. Like, we're
Right.
good.
Right.
So we all, like, if you love what you're doing, like, we need that. We need that essence. We need that soul. And I just love you reminding, I feel like your book, you talking right now, it's just such a beautiful reminder of that. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I have to give a lot of credit. I had the idea of this story and what goes in the book for a little while, but I had kind of a serendipitous moment where I met up with, Kelly Watson. Kelly
Love
O'Brien.
Kelly.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So Kelly was my editor for the book, and how we connected was really interesting because I had this idea for a book, and then I found out that she would help publish it with me, and that just kind of happened. But she told me, when I was considering having someone else write it, like, or help me write it, because I'd never written a book before. I've never written anything longer than an essay or anything like that. And she said, no one can tell this story but you, because it's your story, it's your voice. And you may say that, so and so wrote a book that was similar, but it wasn't you. And when she told me that, it just opened up everything. And it opened up my voice and my breath and everything else. And it just kind of flowed out of me after she said that, because there's so much truth to that. I'm writing something now that I'm like, yeah, and then I'm reading other books. I read a lot of books, and I like see some connections to those books. And I'm like, my first thought is like, well, I can't say that. And I'm like, no, it's not that I can't say that. I need to say it my own way. I'm not stealing it. It's inspiring what I'm saying, or is giving validity to what I'm saying. So there's a lot to be said for the same thing that you said about writing a book. A lot of people say, I can't write a book. Nobody's going to read my book. I'm not a writer. Just start writing. see what happens.
Yeah, the starting to write, the starting to create something that is absolutely like the definition of vulnerability. When you are writing it as it's so easy to imitate. It's a total coward move, it is.
Correct.
And we've all probably been there to a degree, but to catch yourself like you said you just did, and to be able to say, I want to twist this into my own, just my own feeling of what I got from it, just my own, I can't think of the word, what am I trying to say, my own interpretation,
essence
and interpretation of what you read.
Yeah.
And there's something that is, that's what it's about. It's that inspiration to have someone do something in a way, and do it in a way that is true to who they are. And it doesn't have to be a grand action, but or feel more connected or something. But there's something that we want to express, but also we want, and we may not realize we want someone to receive from it. But there is a gift, there's a or such a reciprocity, like
there's a connection there that things get passed along. There's a book, and I can't remember the guy who wrote it, called Steal Like an Artist, and it talks about just about that. It's about getting inspirations from here and there. And it's not stealing, even though he called it that. He called it that probably to sell the book, which I totally get. But that's what it is. It's that it's reciprocal. It's connecting.
It's a give and take. So as the artist, there's so much healing that happens, like you rounding us back to the beginning, you saying how you just had this, you've never written a book before, which blows my mind, having read as much as I have, like that, kudos to you. And that's so courageous. And if anyone's going to be on your side supporting you, Kelly Watson is, as you know,
she's amazing.
She's like the best person you can have ever
absolutely
on your side. But you're reminding me of two things. So I just read a quote from Julia Cameron, who I think she did The Artist's Way and a few other books, a lot of other books actually.
I did the what is it, the morning
pages.
Paper.
Morning Pages keeps showing up in the closet. People referencing it. I like it. Anyway, 3 pages, handwritten, stream of consciousness writing, for anybody who is not familiar with it. And it just is a way in the morning for you to kind of flush out whatever is residual, and so that you can start your day in a clear place and start just seeing patterns and start just connecting with yourself more. And it's really powerful.
It is very powerful.
A very kind of hidden way,
Yeah.
But
you're not supposed to go back and read any of it. And like I honestly, I totally forgot I even did it. Like, and Valerie Lapata, I believe she's doing it now, or she just did it. And I'm like, it got me thinking, I'm like, where are those papers? I can't find them. I'm like, where are all those damn things? I want to read them. But you're not supposed to. So
I know, that's the thing.
You just kind of put it out there. You just, it's kind of like, it's an intention. Right? So, and that's a big thing for me, is like, there's so many intentions, like, and when you put things out there, things will come back. There's a magnetism to that, right? There's an attraction to it. So that is definitely, those morning pages are kind of like an intentions in a physical form.
Yes, that's such a beautiful way to put it. And it's such a beautiful way to put it. And I love you, just to bring it back, being so honest that you were new to writing, and also catching yourself to be able to write this from your own perspective as you, because you're the only one who would be able to do it justice and give it that genuine raw feel and tender feel. And Julia Cameron's quote is what made me think of it when you said that, because she said something along the lines of, trying to be a great artist keeps you from being an artist. And I just feel like fill in the blank. Trying to be a great anything keeps you from being that anything. And when you do the work, whether it's being a parent or being a writer or being an illustrator or being a doctor or whatever, and you focus there, your energy is going out. When you try to be great, your energy is going in. So it's this weird self-consciousness.
Yeah, I agree with that. That. Yeah, I said to myself from the beginning, like, if this book connects to one person, I'm happy. Like I've done something worthwhile, and it's been multiple people's that it's connected to. So I feel wealthy. in that respect. Yeah. Lately, my mind goes towards just being and enjoying and living. And why worry about what comes next? And you can read into that however you want throughout your own life, and I can bring that right back to finding wonder in everything, because if you don't expect uh, the the destination of exactly what happens, you're always going to be within that wonder. And what I what I find really
Can you
interesting.
say that again? Can I have you
I
say
don't even know what I said.
if if you don't expect
If you don't expect the destination, then you're always going to find wonder in wherever you go. And what I find interesting about that is that wonder is one word off of wander. And so if you wander, you're always in wonder, right? So I think that's interesting. And I that came out of writing the book. And um there's some clues in there on when that happens, because there's so many things that happen when you least expect it. And then the funny thing is, like, after the book and everything, I totally forgot I have a sticker on my car that says wander. I've had it on my car for 4 years. And like, I didn't even realize that I just had this like epiphany of what I was writing, and it's been on my vehicle for the entire time. So it's funny, just a funny side note.
probably, and who knows, maybe a subconscious,
Yeah, it could have
maybe
fed
you were
a lot of
constantly
it.
seeing it without realizing it, and it was the
Yeah,
impetus for this. Who knows, you know?
yeah.
But I would love you just to close it off just by what about the book, right? So anybody who's listening, who is this book for? What will they receive from it? Why do they need to get it?
Um, well, I think the book is, well, when I first wrote it, I think I kind of saw it as being just for my age group, because I don't know, you just kind of see things in a certain scope. And then as people started reading it, I had people enjoy it from their teens, which I didn't expect any kids to read it, um, to I had a woman who read it, and I think she was like 93 or 94, who wrote me a handwritten note afterwards and mailed it to me, how much she enjoyed it. And I couldn't believe it. I was just like, are you kidding me? Um, so who is it for? I guess it's for anybody who's willing to take that, reminder to slow it down, or needs the reminder to slow it down. That's the reason I wrote it, I think, is for that. And there's also a lot of people have said, wow, I didn't realize how creativity works after they read it. And I was like, it's not why I wrote it, but there is a lot in there about creativity and how it works. And what's interesting about that is that the next book, which is kind of a continuation of this book, is much more about creativity and how that works on a spiritual level. Where this book goes from sunrise to sunset, that book's going to go from sunset to sunrise. So it's going to go
Oh,
deeper into the stuff we don't see or can't see. Um,
it's amazing. I love the analogy to the sun. I love the darkness that comes through. I love that part too,
thank
because
you.
that's the uncertainty. That's the deep water, right?
Exactly.
My visual just went there. And David Lynch had made me think. David Lynch had a quote. I read something when he was this was like years and years ago. He's deep into transcendental meditation. So he does
Mm,
TM, and it was talking about that, but it was talking about creativity. And he said, if you want to catch the big fish, you have to go into the deep water.
yep.
And it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you got to
it.
go in the shadows. You got to I mean, that this book kind of talks about that as well. I mean, this past year has been in the shadows. That's the dark stuff, and we've all been through it. So you got to go there. You got to confront the the really dark places. And I say it in this book a little bit, but I get into it more in the next one, is that, you know, you can't have light without dark. You know, there is a balance there. So you have to go through that. It's a rite of passage in my mind.
It absolutely is. And I'm so excited to read the next book to complete this. I have all my furniture outside for the nice warm weather, and I'm going to be parking
Yes.
it with iced tea and reading the entire weekend. So this will be on my coffee table. So I'm so excited
Great.
about that. I want to just tell people too, you know, like you wrote it in such a great way that we're all busy rushing, going through life, and finding the time to sit down with a book may seem like laughable, but you did this in such a way, whether you meant to or not, that really takes short bursts. So when people are trying to figure out like how to slow down, you could pick up this book and skip to any chapter and read it and say, oh, secrets. Okay. Oh, and Joe, isn't that Val's husband?
It is.
Noted. There you go, Joe Lapata. And so it's just it's beautifully written. It's super
Thank you.
exciting. It reminds me of the feeling I got when I would read Shel Silverstein as a kid, just that very whimsical,
Hey,
kind of otherworldly.
comparing me to Shel Silverstein that's a dream come true. Thank you.
Well, I meant it. I don't give out compliments very lightly. So
Just freely,
I really meant it.
frivolously.
And there's super fun illustrations throughout, which I love. Just so great. And there was one I do want to share because I think it's so timely. I flipped it open and I saw this one, and it says, "Must be spring. Saw my first human today." And it's so and it's so true on so many levels. I love the gorilla and the banana
Thank you.
in
And
the
yeah, I did.
cage.
I wrote it for that purpose, is
Yeah.
to I mean, you can pick it up and read the whole thing probably in 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But I love a book that I can just pick up in the morning and read one passage and then put it back down and move on. I have a stack of books for that reason. And I'm gravitated to those types of books.
Mhm.
And every once in a while I'll get into a novel and I'll be like, God, these chapters are too goddamn long. So yeah, it's much more bite-sized stuff, which
Yes.
feeds perfectly into what it is or what it's about.
It absolutely does. And just lastly, to add to like the tips you were giving on people kind of slowing down and just having a moment to catch your breath, to remember to breathe, to go on the hike, even opening this type of book, I love doing this, and your book is so perfect for this, to just do like a random flip through and stop and say, okay, what am I supposed to focus on today? Out of
Yeah,
everything going
yeah,
on, like where's something that I can feel anchored in? And then just look and okay, cool, whatever it is that you flip to, whatever your eyes stop on, and just have faith that you were supposed to see that today for some
yeah,
reason.
yeah. And you talked about very briefly about being present, but a lot of those moments in the book or in life in general, those are those moments that's exactly what happens, right? Especially when you're surprised by something and it grounds you and you're suddenly present. I think in those present moments, there's so much power there that we just walk past it all the time, and we just got to stop for a second, take it, and be like, wow, there's so much right there. You know, it could be a spider web. You can watch a spider building its web, and that could bring you present. You feel like you've sat there for way too long, and it was probably 5 minutes. You know, so yeah, the power of being present is something. It's a present. So there you go.
Being present is a present. And I love that you said that you could be there and it could feel like forever, but it was 5 minutes, but it's because you were so present that you went
Yeah,
deep,
yeah,
and you went deep instead of, it was depth over breath. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
such a great reminder.
There's a very brief, there's a couple of stories in there, but there's one about looking at clouds
That
and
was the one I read today. That's
did
so
you?
funny that you're referencing that. Yeah, that's
There it
awesome.
is.
But go
Yeah.
ahead.
But yeah, it was honestly, I think I sat there for 10 minutes and it felt like I was there for an hour. And it's because, everything else just disappeared for those 10 minutes. And it just brought you it slows down time. The time just gradually just came to a crawl for that reason.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking the time to come into the closet, for taking the time and the courage to give us and gift us this book. It's just so incredible. I'm so excited for your next one too. Where are you in the process of writing? Are you in it?
Um, I've written it all, but it'll take several passes, and I
Yep.
haven't drawn anything for it.
Okay.
So who knows when it's going to be out there. Um, with this book, the current book, I kind of rushed through it in a way because it was just it was a I was in a trance. I was like in a zone when I wrote this. This one, the current one, I'm enjoying it a lot more. Um, and so it might be a while before I'm ready to let it go.
Well, whenever you do let it go, we will have you back in the closet to talk about it
Yes.
and to promote it. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about, the
I'll have
darkness of creativity.
I'll have all my top 10 lists done by then.
Yay, all of your top 10. You can share all of them with us then. And when people want to go and buy this book, where can they go to get it?
Well, locally, if you're local, you can go to the Artisans Corner in Clinton. You can go to Old Forge Hardware Store in Old Forge. And you can go to Colgate Bookstore in Hamilton and to 20 East in Cazenovia. Or you can go to findwonderindordinary.com, and there's a link there to take you right to it on Amazon. So that's
Awesome.
worldwide. Anybody in the world can get it now.
That's incredible. And I love the major promo for all of the local business. So yeah, if you
Yeah.
are local, shop local, two birds, one stone. You're shopping local, supporting local, and supporting local artists. So it's awesome. So Bernie, thank you so much
Thank you. I'm
again,
so
and
grateful.
enjoy the weekend is going to be beautiful. So enjoy it. And I look forward to having you back on.
Thank you.